The Denver dawn spilled into my small apartment through thin gray curtains, casting cold light on a desk cluttered with papers and spreadsheets. I sat motionless, staring at the numbers dancing on my laptop screen. Savings account, investment portfolio, personal budget, and the outgoing transfers I'd meticulously marked in red. My professional habit made me track every cent, but this morning, as I looked at those figures, a phrase echoed in my head, one I'd coined for myself: the Carter Family Bank. My name is Maya Carter, 32, a financial advisor living in Capitol Hill, Denver. People often think this job brings security, stability, maybe even a touch of luxury. For me, that's only half true. I earn enough to live comfortably, even enough to buy a small downtown apartment, but most of my hard-earned money has flowed elsewhere. To the old house in suburban Chicago, where my family is still struggling to survive. Survive sounds harsh, but it's the truth. As the eldest child, I've been the family's financial lifeline for years. Not just once, but repeatedly, until it became a habit, an unspoken duty I never signed up for. I grew up in what seemed like a typical American middle-class family in suburban Chicago. A two-story house with a small front lawn, two cars in the garage, weekend BBQs. But the reality inside was as fragile as our worn-out curtains. My father, Frank, was always full of ideas. One day he'd start a landscaping company, the next he'd try a restaurant supply store, then dive into a consulting service with no clients. Each failure ended with a shrug, a pat on my shoulder, and, "This time's different, Susie Q. Sorry, Maya Q, you'll see." But all I saw were bills piling up on the kitchen counter. My mother, Lila, chose to gloss over reality with a shiny veneer. She believed keeping up appearances would fix everything. She bought designer clothes with over-limit credit cards, hosted lavish dinner parties, and afterward, I'd overhear her and Dad arguing about new debts. "Looking the part is what matters," she'd say, as if outward glamour could turn into cash for the mortgage. My three younger siblings grew up in that bubble. Noah, 2 years younger, was spoiled with old but expensive sports cars, never worrying about insurance or registration. Kayla, 4 years younger, was mom's mini-me, obsessed with clothes, makeup, and later dreaming of becoming a social media star. Ethan, the youngest, 6 years my junior, was practically raised by video games, our parents always ready to buy the latest console just to keep him quiet. And me? I was different. Maybe because I was the eldest, or because I saw too clearly the gap between glamour and reality. At 16, I started working at a nearby grocery store. While my friends spent their paychecks on new sneakers, I carefully split mine. Some to savings, some for college tuition, and a little for gifts for my siblings so they wouldn't think I was cheap. At the University of Illinois, I juggled 3 jobs: waitressing, teaching assistant for statistics, and part-time library staff. I didn't have spring breaks at the beach or join sororities, but I graduated in 2015 with a near-perfect GPA and, most importantly, no student debt. That same year, I landed my dream job in Denver with a $70,000 starting salary. I thought my life was turning a new page. I'd live freely, build my own future. But just 1 month in, I did something that shaped the next 8 years. I sent money to save the Chicago house from foreclosure after 3 missed mortgage payments. From then on, rescues became routine. When Noah crashed his car, I paid for insurance. When Kayla wanted to start an online cosmetics business, I funded it. When Ethan enrolled in community college, I covered his tuition. When my parents needed a new roof, I sent money immediately. The cash flowed one way, from my account to theirs. Once I jokingly said, "Looks like we've got a Carter family bank." Everyone laughed, but no one denied it. Over the years, they said thank you less and called more often with 3 words: "We need it urgently." I vividly remember Thanksgiving 3 years ago. The family gathered in the warm kitchen, a golden turkey on the table. Everyone was laughing and chatting, but Uncle Mike, my dad's brother, pulled me into the garage to help grab chairs. In the dim light, he lowered his voice. Do you realize what they're doing, Maya? They're using you. I froze, forcing a laugh. I'm just helping, no big deal. He shook his head. Do you think any of them would do this for you? When was the last time one of them asked how you're doing, what you need? I couldn't answer. My silence said it all. But I still returned to the dinner table, smiled, and paid Mom's hospital bill afterward, as if that conversation never happened. The years that followed saw me climb higher in my career in Denver, but I was increasingly tethered to my role as the Carter family bank. I drove a 6-year-old car, lived in a modest apartment instead of a house, and postponed trips to ensure money reached Chicago on time. I told myself, it's my responsibility, their family. But sometimes, in the dead of night, staring at my dwindling savings, I wondered, do they love me or just my wallet? One detail haunted me. The family phone rang. Somehow it always came at the most critical moments. The day I was preparing for my first big company presentation, Noah called, needing urgent insurance money. When I was about to book a Seattle conference trip, Kayla texted, needing funds for her influencer investment. The worst was the morning I got a promotion notification. Mom called saying the roof was leaking and needed immediate repairs. Each time, my joy dimmed. The family phone became an omen. It rang, and a chunk of my income was about to vanish. This morning, staring at my spreadsheet, the phone rang again. I glanced over, the screen lighting up. Family group chat. 6 new messages. My heart tightened instinctively. I didn't open it, but unease surged, like a storm approaching. I didn't yet know that the words waiting for me would change everything, but deep down, I sensed the storm I'd always avoided was about to hit. Have you ever felt like an ATM in your own family? I believe many of us, in some way, have felt it. Love tangled with duty, responsibility turned into a burden. Share your story, or simply let me know if you relate to what I've been through. Because my journey is about to enter its fiercest phase, where I must answer, does family love hold when the money stops? Have you ever picked up a phone knowing it's not a check-in, but a bill disguised as an emergency? For me, that pattern repeated like clockwork. Every month, my family found a new crisis, and I stretched my thin umbrella to shield their sky. In February, I was presenting on Zoom in Denver when Noah's name flashed for the 4th time. I turned off my camera, answered, and heard tow truck chains and his panicked voice. Sis, they're towing my car. If I lose it, I lose my job. I opened my banking app and sent $4,000 on reflex. 2 days later, Instagram showed Noah grinning with a new console. Treat yourself, you only live once. In March, I met Kayla at a coffee shop. She arrived late, clutching a stack of brochures. Once in a lifetime opportunity, she said, tapping a pyramid scheme chart. Just $10,000 to move up the ranks. The products sell themselves, 6 figures in 6 months. I recognized the scam. Kayla, this is risky. She glared. You always doubt me. Everyone else supports me, but you throw cold water. I sighed, relenting. I can only give $5,000. She took the money grudgingly and ghosted me for 3 weeks. In April, Mom's voice was smooth but sharp. Honey, Ethan's upset. His old computer can't run new games. His friends are all streaming. Help out, just $3,000. I swallowed hard. Mom, he's 26. He can get a part-time job. Dad cut in. Support his passion. Streaming's how people make a living now. I didn't commit, but their texts dripped in all week. I stayed silent, exhausted. Then May. The $6,000 roof repair ballooned. Contractors said the termite damage was worse. Then $10,000, then $15,000, finally $20,000. I flew to Chicago to see for myself and was greeted by a new sofa, new curtains, and a shiny watch on Dad's wrist. Why so many changes? I forced a smile. Mom replied casually. The wood was rotting inside, so we had to replace the furniture too. By June, I told myself, if I want change, I need a new approach. After dinner, I spread out documents on the dining table, budgeting apps, a minimalist budget template, a plan to cut secondary cards. I spoke slowly. I'm not stopping help, but we need a long-term strategy. These tools give everyone control. The room went cold. Noah stared at his phone. Kayla pursed her lips. Mom twirled her spoon, avoiding my eyes. Dad slammed his glass down. We're fine. No one needs to be taught how to live. I cleared the dishes to hide my tears. Passing the kitchen, I overheard a whisper like a needle. Kayla to Mom. She thinks money lets her control everything. And Mom replied, she's always like that, Miss Perfect with her budgets. I stood frozen. So in their eyes, I wasn't the sacrificer but the controller. For the first time, I named the doubt lingering in my mind. Maybe our family bond was only held together by my wallet. On the flight back to Denver, I opened my notes app and wrote a list I should have made long ago. Date, recipient, reason, amount, feeling. Under feeling, short words appeared. Empty, heavy, uncertain, sometimes a flicker of hope. I realized I managed money expertly, but never the emotions around those transfers. I'd vaguely believed that if I gave enough, they'd change, that if I stayed quiet enough, they'd see me as a person, not a wallet. Days later, life in Denver went on. Morning coffee, midday meetings, afternoon emails, evenings watching city lights. But something inside me had shifted. I replayed the past months, the tow truck's rumble, the pyramid scheme brochure sliding across the table, guilt-tripping texts about passions. They formed a repeating pattern. Emergency, transfer, false calm, repeat. I was tired, not just from the money leaving, but from being drained and labeled controlling. I didn't deny the ties holding me, Noah carrying me through snow, Kayla crying in her blanket, Ethan hugging me after a breakup. Family wasn't just bills, but that's why each emergency blurred love and debt, clouding boundaries. I wanted to hold them close and escape the exhausting cycle at the same time. The old question sharpened: save them or save myself? One evening, I planned to call Mom, suggesting a free budgeting app for a month. I opened my laptop, adding a consequences column to my spreadsheet. After each payment, what truly improved, what was just surface shine. The map wasn't pretty. Urgent funds often paired with treat yourself photos. Each rescue weakened their self-reliance. Undisciplined kindness, I realized, was just a thin coat in a blizzard. On Monday morning, Denver's sky was clear as if freshly washed. I arrived at the office early, opening my inbox. At the top was an odd email. Credit check appointment. Confirmed. I blinked. I hadn't scheduled a credit check. The email listed my name, address, phone number, and a Thursday afternoon slot. A chill ran down my spine. I checked spam. It wasn't junk. I checked my calendar. It was empty. For a moment, I heard my heartbeat, slow and heavy. My professional instinct said, "This isn't a coincidence." My daughterly instinct whispered, "Don't think the worst of family." I stood, looking out the window at the snow-capped mountains. The city hummed along. But that email was the first dark cloud. I didn't know what I was about to uncover, only that the story had turned, and I'd see it through to find the truth. If you find my journey compelling, leave a Y in the comments. If not, be honest and type N. Either way, I'll keep going. And knowing you're out there makes the road ahead feel less cold. Have you ever received a call that shattered your world in seconds? I still remember that fateful Monday afternoon in December 2023. The Denver office buzzed with keyboards and printers, but when my phone rang, the world around me froze. A stranger's voice, dry as a verdict, came through. "Is this Maya Carter? We're calling from the Collection Agency of Illinois. Your $30,000 loan is 6 months overdue. If not paid immediately, we'll have to pursue legal action." I went numb. "I'm sorry, what loan? I've never borrowed money." The voice was indifferent, like reading a script. "Records show you're a co-signer. The signature matches perfectly. We have all the documentation. I set the phone down, my hands shaking so much I nearly dropped my coffee. I'd never taken out a personal loan beyond my small apartment mortgage. Someone had used my name, and only one possibility flashed in my mind: my parents. That night, I called Chicago. Mom answered, her voice light. Maya, I'm cooking dinner. Can we talk tomorrow? I swallowed my anger. Mom, I just got a call from a debt collector. They say I co-signed a $30,000 loan. I never signed anything. What's going on? Silence. Then Dad's voice in the background. Oh, sweetheart, don't make a big deal. It's a misunderstanding. We mentioned needing money for the house and you said you'd help. Using your name as a co-signer was just easier. I was stunned. Easier? You forged my signature. That's fraud. Mom cut in, irritated. Don't be so dramatic. We're family. There's no such thing as fraud. We share blood. No one's keeping score. In that moment, I faced what I'd always feared. To them, my money wasn't help. It was their default resource. I hung up, my chest tight, ears ringing with rushing blood. The next morning, Tuesday, at 9:17 a.m., as I prepared for a client meeting, my phone buzzed. A message from the family group chat. My heart raced as I opened it. We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore. At all. 13 words. No emojis, no explanation. Just a cold blade. I read it twice, then a third time. My hands shook, dropping my pen. For a moment, I felt exiled from my own family, as if I were the burden to be cast out. I called Mom. Voicemail. Dad. Voicemail. Noah. Voicemail. Kayla. Voicemail. Ethan didn't even have voicemail set up. I tried again. Same result. They'd all blocked me. I sat motionless in my office chair, staring at the wall clock. Each tick felt like a hammer to my temples. One question consumed me. What did I do wrong? I'd given too much, blurring the line between family and duty. And when I dared demand transparency, they responded with exile. Finally, I called Uncle Mike. He answered immediately, his voice heavy. Maya, I was about to call you. There was a family meeting last night. No one invited me, or you. I choked. A meeting about what? About you. He sighed. They said you're using money to control them, that your success makes you look down on them. They saw your questions about the loan as you trying to punish them. I laughed bitterly, a hollow sound. They forged my signature, and I'm the punisher? I know, it's absurd, but they've convinced themselves you're the problem. That message this morning was their collective decision. I gripped the chair until my knuckles whitened. Pain mixed with simmering anger. My entire youth, the countless transfers without receipts, all summed up in 2 words: family love. And the one time I demanded fairness, they answered with banishment. That afternoon, I went through work on autopilot, but every word on my screen blurred. I retreated to the bathroom, sobbing like a child. A colleague knocked, asking softly, Maya, you okay? I lied. Just allergies. But inside, I knew I was breaking. That night, back in my Capitol Hill apartment, I opened a box of family photos. Noah's graduation, Kayla's birthday candles, my parents' anniversary. In every picture, I stood there, smiling, knowing I'd paid for most of it. I studied their faces for a hint of gratitude, but the more I looked, the emptier I felt. I lay on the cold kitchen floor, clutching my phone, hoping for an explanatory text. Nothing came, only silence. I drifted into a restless sleep, dreaming of standing outside our childhood home, watching through the window as my family gathered without me. Wednesday morning, I visited Dr. Priya Patel, a therapist recommended by a colleague. Her office was warm with soft lighting, a plush sofa, and the scent of lavender oil. I poured out everything: the debt collector's call, the gaslighting confrontation, The 9:17 a.m. text. The absolute silence. Dr. Patel listened, her eyes gentle but firm. I expected her to reassure me I wasn't crazy, that it was all a misunderstanding. Instead, she asked a question that took my breath away. Do you have complete records? Every transfer, payment, support? Have you documented it all? I nodded slowly. Yes, I've tracked every transaction. I thought it was just my professional habit. She nodded slightly. Then for our next session, do one thing. Calculate it all. Don't skip a single item. You need to know exactly how much you've given to understand what's happening. I sat still, feeling both fear and clarity. Calculate it all? I'd never dared face that number. If I did, I'd have to admit that for 8 years, I'd been supporting an entire grown family. And that truth might hurt more than any cold text. If you want to hear more stories and struggles like mine and feel a connection, you can find my previous videos on this channel. Some numbers, when added up, don't just give a total, they point straight to the truth. That Wednesday night, I opened my family support XLSX file, entering each date, recipient, and reason, leaving the feeling column blank. I thought I'd cry, but what surged was clarity. To escape, I had to face it. I traced back from 2015 to 2023, mortgage rescues, Noah's car insurance, Ethan's tuition, Kayla's startup capital, roof repairs, and nameless emergencies. At midnight, I hit the sum cell, $178,642 over 8 years. The number stood before me like a warning sign I'd sped past for years. I didn't stop. I opened a fraud tab. From the strange credit check email, I checked all 3 bureaus and found 3 credit cards opened in my name, 2 phone plans for Ethan and Kayla, a furniture installment plan matching the new sofa's purchase date, and a lease co-signed for Noah. I screenshot everything, downloaded statements, and built a timeline. Over $45,000 in fraud laid bare like a map of theft within my own home. Thursday morning, I called Mark Reeves, CFPer. He was blunt. Freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus, change all passwords and security questions, enable 2-factor authentication, stop all automatic transfers. His checklist hit my inbox. I followed it, each click like buckling a seatbelt. At noon, I met Laura Kim, Escroa, an identity fraud attorney. Family or stranger, the law doesn't care, she said. We'll file disputes, send cease and desist letters, demand they stop using your info. Criminal charges can wait. First, stop the bleeding. I nodded. I didn't want my parents in court, but I couldn't keep silently bleeding either. That afternoon, I taped a Save Myself Rules list to my fridge. 1. No more paying for others. 2. Offer knowledge, not cash. 3. Document everything. 4. If guilt overwhelms, call Dr. Patel. I brewed tea, expecting a quiet night. But a knock came. It was Mom, Lila. She placed an envelope on the table, a servicer's logo, bolded, Notice of Intent to Accelerate. Foreclosure loomed. Then she pulled out a silver bracelet engraved with her wedding date. I'm selling it to cover this payment, she said, voice hoarse. Your dad's panicking. You know what to do. The bracelet lay cold on the wood, thin as a crescent moon. I remembered her twirling it as a child to calm herself during fights with Dad. It was the rare piece of history untainted by debt. I swallowed. I'm not paying anymore, Mom, but I'll go with you. Her eyes flashed with anger. You're abandoning us? No. Tomorrow, I'll take you to a HUD-approved housing counselor near Auraria campus. They'll work with the servicer, explore forbearance or loan modification, and build a loss mitigation plan. I'll cover 3 months of counseling fees, but only if you complete Financial Literacy 101, cut all secondary cards, and sign a spending commitment. Otherwise, I stop helping. Her shoulders slumped. She looked at the bracelet, then at me, weighing pride against desperation. Fine, she whispered. You arrange it. The next day's counseling office was small and bright, with Know Your Options posters on the walls. The curly-haired counselor called the servicer in front of us. Terms I used with clients, trial payment, DTI, escrow, hardship letter, now applied to Mom. She requested a detailed budget, proof of income, and a debt list. If Lila sticks to it, there's a good chance for a trial modification, she concluded. I watched Mom take notes seriously for the first time, her pen digging grooves into the paper. That afternoon, I laid out a simple budget on the kitchen table: expense groups, spending caps, a real emergency fund envelope. I handed her scissors. She placed each credit card on the table. Snip, snip, each sound stitched up an old tear. I slid the bracelet back to her. Keep it. It's not for paying debts. It's to remind you you're worth a debt-free life. Her hands trembled. Suddenly, she hugged me. The first embrace in years, without pricey perfume or sighs over bills, just warmth. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I turned you into a walking wallet." I replied, "I'm sorry for letting it go on so long." In that moment, I felt an old crack slowly closing. The days that followed were a chain of tasks that no longer scared me. Calling Mark to finalize stopping auto transfers, filing disputes with Laura's guidance, tracking the trial payment checklist with the counselor. I taped an A3 budget chart to Mom's fridge, marking her class attendance days. Each checkmark was a step away from the edge, for her and me. Thursday night, back in my Capitol Hill apartment, I opened the family group chat, still a cold wall since 9:17 a.m. Tuesday. I didn't explain, list numbers, or beg for understanding. I typed 7 words: "I'm canceling all transfers." I hit send. The screen dimmed, then lit up like city lights at rush hour. Mom called, Dad called, Noah's texts poured in. Kayla sent a long voice note. Ethan texted curtly, "My phone bill?" I let the phone buzz on the table, the sound like rain on glass. I realized this was the moment to tear down the old pattern. Help paying for. Help is holding someone's hand to a class, calling a servicer with them, placing scissors on the table for one final snip. And it's daring to say no, even to those you love. I took a deep breath. The storm was coming, but unlike before, I had a lifeboat, a map, and knew which way to swim. In early January 2024, an email from the servicer confirmed a 3-month trial payment schedule. The counselor texted, "Keep up the plan." I smiled. Then the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Mom, Dad, Noah with arms crossed, Kayla on speakerphone, Ethan texting furiously. I gripped the handle. The storm was at my doorstep and I unlatched it, not to surrender, but to face it. Some nights you know you'll remember forever. Not for romance, but because they mark a clear line between before and after. For me, it was that Thursday night, right after I sent the 7-word message, "I'm canceling all transfers." The knocking was urgent. Through the peephole, I saw Mom, Dad, and Noah in the hallway. Kayla's voice blared from Mom's phone speaker. Ethan texted relentlessly, "I need phone money, Maya." I took a deep breath and opened the door. They stormed into my living room like a whirlwind. Mom burst into tears, wiping her eyes. "Maya, don't do this. I can't handle the bank pressure anymore. If we lose the house, how will I live?" Dad, Frank, stood behind her, not crying but accusatory. "Have you forgotten who raised you? We're blood. How can you abandon us?" Noah stepped forward, phone in hand, voice sharp. "You're just cutting us off? My car needs insurance. My lease has 3 months left. You're bailing on everything?" Kayla's voice crackled through the speaker. "You don't believe in me, won't invest in me, and now you're ruining the family's dreams. You're so selfish." I sat straight on the sofa, hands on my thighs to stop the trembling. I'd prepared for this moment, but not its speed and intensity. I spoke, my voice strangely calm. "You chose to have me, so you raised me. But I didn't sign up to support 4 grown adults forever. I've done more than my duty. From now on, you're responsible for yourselves." The room exploded. Mom stopped crying, turning to blame. "You're cruel, Maya. Do other families act like this?" Dad slammed his hand on the table. "We could sue you. You promised to help. That's a commitment. I gave a dry laugh. Promising help doesn't mean a lifetime contract. And have you forgotten? You forged my signature for a $30,000 loan. Who broke the commitment? Noah flushed, turning away. Kayla went silent, then screamed through the speaker. You'll regret this. When this family falls apart, you'll see it's your fault. I stood, voice firm. No. This collapse comes from years of you avoiding responsibility. I'm just stopping enabling it. The confrontation lasted nearly 2 hours. They tried everything: tears, guilt, threats, reminders of their sacrifices, even legal bluffs. I answered each point, unyielding, not shouting, just stating the truth. Near midnight, they left, leaving my apartment silent. I sat alone, heart still racing. But strangely, I felt something new. Freedom. Days later, I heard updates through Uncle Mike, like a war correspondent reporting the fallout of a fallen kingdom. Noah lost his fancy car and spacious apartment. He posted ads for roommates to split rent and got a job at a suburban warehouse. First time he paid his own car insurance, Mike said, half pitying, half amused. Kayla had to abandon her unprofitable influencer career. She took a receptionist job at a small company, then, using her caption writing and photography skills, was tasked with managing their social media. For the first time, she earned a steady paycheck instead of chasing pyramid dreams. Ethan, cut off from internet, couldn't stream games. He took a part-time retail job and astonishingly enrolled in community college for IT. Looks like he's realizing gaming isn't just play, it could be a career if he studies right, Mike texted. My parents faced the harshest reality. With overdue mortgage and cut-off credit cards, they turned to credit counseling. The counselor advised selling household items to pay debts and applying for a 3-month trial payment to save the house. Mom called Mike, her voice changed. We're forced to live simpler now. Meanwhile, in Denver, I had my first free weekends in years. No more waiting for urgent calls. I hiked red rocks, breathing crisp Colorado air, gazing at the open sky. Each step on the red trails was a beat of liberation. I realized, this time, the consequences were real. No miracles, no one swooping in to save them. But from the wreckage, seeds of change sprouted, and I finally was no longer the Carter family bank, just Maya, an independent person. On a Sunday evening, I opened my email. The servicer confirmed the trial payment schedule. I read each line slowly, feeling like I saw light at the tunnel's end. Then, a text from Mom. Thanks for dragging me to class. Without it, I'd have collapsed. I set the phone down, watching Denver's nightlights reflect on my wall. The anger I once felt was gone, replaced by calm and a touch of surprise. For the first time, Mom was taking small steps on her own. Some mornings, you wake up and realize you no longer jump at the sound of the family phone. 6 months after that confrontation, I found a peace I'd thought was just a dream. I moved from my old Capitol Hill apartment, where sleepless nights lingered, to a 2-bedroom in Baker. White walls, wide windows overlooking a maple-lined street, and a living room decorated with items I chose for myself, not for anyone's convenience. Every corner of the place proved one truth. I was living my own life. My savings grew. My emergency fund could cover 6 months. My portfolio no longer bled unexpectedly. I felt free, not just financially, but emotionally. Weekends, instead of bracing for urgent calls, I hiked red rocks, joined a book club through my colleague Lisa, and even picked up painting again, a hobby I'd long abandoned. In those fresh days, I met Michael, a landscape architect, through a hiking group. He didn't ask about my income or hint at help. He just listened, laughed at my jokes, and respected my boundaries. When I declined a date for a quiet night alone, he texted, I get it, another time. For the first time, I felt ease in a relationship, not because of what I gave, but because I could be myself. While I rebuilt my life, my family was forced to change, however slowly and reluctantly. News came through short talks with Uncle Mike, and sometimes from them directly. Noah sent me a small transfer, $50 with a note. You were right. It was nothing compared to the $178,642 I'd given, but it brought tears to my eyes. For the first time, my brother didn't just ask, he gave back, even symbolically. Kayla video called, her smile less made up than usual. She shared how she turned down a lucrative PR deal for a shady product. You know, I'm proud to earn a paycheck for real work, not relying on anyone. Her eyes shone with a confidence not borrowed from designer clothes or stage trips. Ethan, the game-obsessed youngest, sent a photo of his grades. He'd passed his first IT course. He wrote, "Not great, but it's real. I did it." I read it over and over, my heart light as air. Mom completed Financial Literacy 101. She sent me her new budget, with a savings section, something she'd never considered before. "Loan modification's almost done," she texted. "I miss you, not your money." I paused, closing my eyes, letting the words sink in. I knew that to heal, I needed clear boundaries. I replied to Mom with 4 conditions. 1. Acknowledge the financial abuse. 2. Clear all fraudulent debts and accounts in my name. 3. Commit to financial independence. 4. Respect my boundaries. No guilt, no manipulation. I sent it without expectation. But Mom replied, "I agree. We have work to do, but I want to try." We met at a small Denver coffee shop. I arrived early, my heart in waves. When the door opened, Mom walked in. She wore a simple sweater, her gray hair visible, her hand clutching the silver wedding date bracelet she'd nearly sold. I stood, unsure whether to hug or shake hands, but she stepped forward, wrapping me in a tight embrace. No expensive perfume, no sighs over bills, just warmth. I hugged back, and in that moment, we touched the human parts of each other, unclouded by money. We sat, ordering black coffee for her, a latte for me. The conversation wasn't smooth. She teared up, admitting, "I was wrong," and I choked up, recalling being treated like an ATM. But for the first time, the air between us wasn't heavy with debt. It opened to truth and compassion. As we left, I saw the bracelet still on her wrist. I couldn't stop a smile. It was no longer a symbol of something to sell for debt, but a mark of memory, responsibility, and a chance to live differently. Driving back to my Baker apartment, I played soft music, watching the afternoon sun spill over red brick buildings. In the rearview mirror, I saw a woman driving, not the Carter family bank, not a walking wallet, but Maya, someone who'd learned to love herself. I know this journey isn't over. My family might stumble, might try old habits, but I also know I have tools, boundaries, and most importantly, the belief that I deserve a healthy family bond. As I close this chapter, I truly understand that family love should never come at the cost of exploitation. I once thought love meant giving unconditionally, but it also requires clarity and boundaries. Only when I dared say no did my family have to grow up. And only when I learned to value myself could I give love untainted by financial pressure or ungrateful assumptions. This story reminds me, sometimes the greatest gift you can give your family isn't money, but the chance to stand on their own, to take responsibility for their lives. No feels bitter, but it opens the door to healing, to hugs free of money's scent. If this story resonates, please like, leave a comment, and follow the channel for more heartfelt journeys. I believe every story can plant a seed of kindness in those who hear it.